I spent some time in Roanoke, Virginia, one of the most beautiful places I've ever lived. It's this little valley surrounded by the Blue Ridge Mountains. And across the street from where I live was a park. You could look over in the evening and you would see hundreds of fireflies flying around. And I always thought it was such a cool thing, bring me back to when I was young, when I was a kid, and it was such a thrill in running around trying to chase those things. And seeing this day in and day out led me to think, 24, 25 years later, about all the things that have changed in my life. Back then, life was pretty straightforward. As a child, you place your value on what feels right in the present. You're not thinking about 2 years down the road or wondering what others are going to think. Your creativity and your sense of exploration are running on all cylinders. Then something happens. We begin to understand the way of things. We see what's valued in society. We see what's expected. We see how success is defined. And so begins our ascent up the ladder. And rung by rung we climb, looking above us, below us to see where others are, see how fast they've moved in relation to us. And eventually this coincides with how we see ourselves. And as you know, how you see yourself is the best indicator of what you will become. Which is why when so many people aren't happy with their day-to-day, that's a huge red flag. That's breathing, that's not living. Folks have been climbing this ladder their entire lives and never stopped to ask if it's where they were meant to be. Maybe the top of the community ladder isn't what you want, but you never thought, you only acted. And if you don't think, if you don't ask yourself the question, you will climb and you will climb and you will climb until you burn out. I try and spend a few minutes every day thinking about this. It's the most important thing I can spend time on. It's my life. It's more important than green paper. It means more than the opinions of others. It's the backbone of everything. Everything around me and the meaning I give it stems from how I identify myself, who I am. Which brings me back to those fireflies, to running around on a hot summer evening, not having a care in the world. There is something intrinsically perfect about those moments. Life is about peak experiences, joy, excitement, so that you never lose that spark, because it's all that separates us from every other being on the planet. If we don't have that, what do we have? What separates us from ants moving dirt? Monotonous action based on instinct. There's just no thrill in that. Why not create a life that allows you to feel that excitement every day? Don't act because you're supposed to. Act because you so desperately want to that there's no other option. Because you couldn't live without the adventure. You couldn't pass on the experience. Here's a secret. If you become fixated on a life that means nothing to you, at some point, you will probably get to the top. And from there, you will have a beautiful view of everything you missed out on. So maybe there is something to the whole chasing firefly routine. Maybe a 4-year-old running after a glowing bug with a jar deserves more credit than he's given. There have been times in my life when I've been down. I've been out, I've been afraid. I've looked up at the road ahead and been completely unsure. And I can say firsthand, when you're going through a situation like this, that it essentially consumes you, right? It's all you see, it's all you think about, to the point where the good stuff, the opportunity all around you, it becomes transparent. You see right through it. It's the negative, it's misfortune for a period of time that becomes your narrative, becomes the story. What if this is forever? What if I'm not as good as I want to be or as they are? What if things don't work out? Never mind the fact that you've been here before and you've battled back. Never mind how far you've come. No, that takes a back seat to the discomfort that we feel right now, and that's the irrationality of the human mind. We forget. We forget that the lows create the highs. That temporary isn't forever, that you can't stand with any type of authority if you've never before fallen. Accomplishing anything is never just walking up and reaching a goal. It's about getting back up over and over again. Taking the bad breaks in stride and seeing the losses for what they are, necessary. What if I told you that the difficult times weren't just manageable, they were what you needed? Those moments when you felt helpless were a bridge to something better. A demonstration of just how capable you are and how strong you can be. Feeling lost, feeling defeated, sure, it's unsettling. But it's also a reminder that you are exactly where you need to be. In one form or another, your struggle becomes your answer. Life isn't always calm seas and sunny skies, but if you let it, it will teach you to weather any storm to come out on top. Never lose sight of the opportunity, it's there. Hiding behind the struggle, immersed in the ups and downs, and when you know that you will not let yourself stay down, that you'll get up. Struggle becomes a building block, not a weight around the ankles. With each stumble, you become taller. With each misstep, you step forward. The problem will never be tough times. It will be refusing to find that next level for fear of their materialization. Regret is a choice. And for those who refuse to stay down, it will be a choice that they'll never know. There's a rope. It's stretched, taut, about 10 feet up, parallel to the ground. You're holding on with both hands, just hanging there. You're not alone, there are people to your left and to your right, all holding on just like you are. A few minutes pass, then a few more, and suddenly this little realization trickles into the back of your head. This is not going to be a cakewalk. In fact, it's starting to hurt. You've moved beyond that phase of simply being in unfamiliar territory, and now you know where you are. You're uncomfortable. Out of sheer curiosity, you look to your left, you look to your right, and you start noticing that these people next to you are beginning to let go. One by one, they're making the decision that it simply isn't worth it. So they make it stop, and so could you. But you decide not yet. You hold on. Maybe it's curiosity, maybe in some convoluted way it's ambition. But you separate yourself from the negative, from the voice convincing the people next to you to just lift their fingers and make it go away. Somehow you're floating above all that. Another minute goes by, another and another, but it doesn't make a difference because you're focusing on the seconds. Because anyone can do anything for 1 second, it just so happens that they add up. It happens that they create minutes. And after a little while, you again glance to your left, you look to your right, and this time, everyone is gone. This time you're alone, the last one standing, hanging on this rope. And you think about it, there was no definitive moment when this result crystallized. It was a product of what you didn't do. It's the result of not letting go. To someone passing by, you did nothing remarkable. When others let go, you simply hung on. And it turns out that that can make all the difference. So many different thoughts, opinions, approaches regarding success. That magical word, what is it? What does it mean? How do you get there? With reality swirling around you, problems derailing, pushing you back, we're inclined to believe that getting what we want needs to be some huge production, some monumental shift, and I do not agree with that. Success is seeing the big picture. It is hanging on through the negative, looking past the now. It's what you don't do. That fight in you that separates your goals from everything else. Look, there's always a point when you're tired, when your fingers start to slip, when a simple decision takes the pain intertwined in the present moment and makes it disappear. But right now is not what you're after. Anyone can have right now. The goal, the finish line is down the road. It requires that you hang tight, that you strap in and ride this thing out. If you want it, it's there. It's that simple. It's not a trick or a riddle. It's a question. When others let go, will you hang on? If you were to walk to the water's edge and stare out, you'd swear there's a point where the ocean meets the sky, where these mirroring worlds coexist. Their rules, their truths, their realities exposed, condensed to nothing. It's at this very point that life is rediscovered, where possible is recreated. Never a pursuit for the faint of heart. No, because heart is what carries you through. Never a battle for the conformists, because to follow is to surrender. This pathway in the sky is reserved. Reserved for those willing to construct their own ladders and climb them to the impossible. For those who risk falling back to earth, knowing that never leaving the ground is a fate far worse. It's a journey that's not for them or him or her. It's for that little voice in your head that wonders just how far you can go. See, at the end of the day, just before you close your eyes, you'll know. You'll know whether you had anything left to give, whether you followed your heart and fought with your soul. Never has the moment been greater, never the opportunity more plentiful. This universe is yours to be transformed and manipulated, rebuilt in your image. And while some look back at life within the confines of ordinary, others look forward towards that spot where the ocean meets the sky, towards their dreams and a limitless tomorrow. One where we don't look up at the clouds, but look down at the world below. Life won't always point you in the direction you need to go. It won't hand you the tools or walk you to some finish line. But for those willing to search for something more, to seek out beyond the immediate, they will find their way past the impossibles and the unknowns. They'll discover the depths of the human spirit and the power of the human mind. For it's in the journey that life is created. It's from the clouds that potential becomes real. So find it, chase it down, impose your reality on life. The time will come when you're no longer able to step forward to breathe in the miracle that is around you. That time is not now. Let your actions reflect this truth. The view is always most beautiful from the top. One of the greatest things about life is that how you perceive it determines what you get from it. The lens through which you look at the world roadmaps your success, right? All we are is a compilation of the things we see and the beliefs we hold. Which brings me to a very interesting question. Why are human beings so inclined to limit themselves and their abilities? Why do we bring life to stopping points, to barriers that simply are not there? See, in the world we know, every day of our lives is consumed by rules, laws, limitations. If I throw a rock into the air, it's going to hit a certain point, come to a stop, and fall back down to earth. That's science. That result can be mathematically proven, and there's really no debate about it. The issue, though, and one of the most tragic elements of human behavior is when that exact certainty, that limitation, is applied to potential. Because potential is not a thing. Potential is an idea. Visualize someone who just completed a 6-minute mile, right? It's a pretty good time, something to be proud of. The question, though, is what tangible evidence, what proof does that individual have that they couldn't have run 5:59 or 5:50? 5:30. So often we stop because we believe we've done enough. We're comfortable right where we are, we know what the standard is, and we act accordingly. But just imagine a life without these false pretenses. Imagine the possibilities that exist for those who set their own standards. It truly is the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. Going back a few years, when Henry Ford first created the automobile, he said that if he would have asked the world what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, because that was the standard. A new possible hadn't been defined yet. And this supports the fact that reality is whatever you decide it's going to be, right? That mentality has been held by anyone who's made a positive impact on society, anyone who's exceeded expectations. Unlike that rock flying through the air, there's no defined stopping point for you other than the one you give yourself. And today is about taking that stopping point and making it disappear. It's about innovation, having the courage to step into the unknown, to push, to do the things that most people wouldn't. Because most people are confined to those self-induced limitations. But they don't need to be. right? There are two ways to look at any situation: to simply exist through it, or to have an impact, to be the defining piece, to do something memorable. And every day is an opportunity to become that standard. But you have to first believe you are. Believe that your capabilities and talents stretch far beyond what is right in front of you. Believe that possibilities are limitless, and you will see the world transform right in front of you. It'll be an incredible sight to see.